Welcome to another episode of One Door at a Time, Consensual Educational Solutions Podcast, where we talk about the intersection of politics, business, community, and education. But today, we're going to start off and have a special guest with somebody completely different about something completely off topic, but something and someone who is extremely dear to me, who, if it wasn't for him, I would not be here today to be able to talk with you. Today, I have the pleasure of being with Cyrus D. Jones, the coach of Lincoln University track team for so many years. He has done so much beyond any accolades that I can put upon him, behind any accomplishments that I can attribute to him. He is beyond a mentor. He is a father to so many, rescuer of more. And I just want to thank you for making the track down. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your commitment. And just want to gain insight. And so thank you, Coach. I appreciate you and love you.
Well, Dave, I certainly appreciate you having me here today. And you just got to remember you and hundreds of other men and women who made me who I am today. Because if it wasn't for you, Cyruss Jones would not have done so well in sports.
Right. So, Coach, talk about your journey. What made you are one of the most remarkable people I've ever met in my life. Beyond being humble, and beyond being gracious, you are just to your core amazing person. Talk about your journey, like your childhood. How did Cyrus become the Cyrus and the Coach Jones that we know?
Well, Dave, coming up, I remembered I loved baseball, and I wanted to play baseball. I wanted to coach. I never thought that I would be good enough to play baseball, but coming up, that was my forte. I loved the trombone. I played the trombone in high school. So it was just a matter of me getting somewhere. So I thought I can coach. And all during my childhood, it was a rough time, but I'm here, and I don't regret anything that I went through. I don't have any ill feelings about anyone, but what I am today in the area of track and field is just surprising to me.
So you grew up in what, Florida?
Jacksonville, Florida.
So what was it like coming up in Florida when you were growing up?
Well, Dave, and again, it's so difficult to talk about that because when I was small, we had to go to church and we had to walk a mile to get to Sunday school. And going to Sunday school, sometimes we had to fight to even get to Sunday school and come back from Sunday school. And it's the same thing in high school. Coming from Matthew Gilbert High School, when we would leave band practice, we had to walk about 2 miles to get home, and we had to walk through the other section of town.
Other section, yeah.
So what we had to do, we would say to ourselves, well, and there's maybe 5 or 6 of us. Sometimes we would catch a ride. People would stop. If we would stand on the side of the road, they would pick us up and take us through that neighborhood. But then other times we would have to walk, and we would say, now which way are we going today? Because we didn't feel like we wanted to fight. We had a rough band practice, baseball practice, or whatever. And that's how my childhood coming up. We had to literally be on alert and to try to save our life so we wouldn't get hurt going home from school.
So, of course, you go through that. You go through high school. What's the next step after high school? Where'd you go?
Well, after high school, I decided that, with my trombone, I played trombone in the symphonic band and the marching band at Matthew Gilbert. And I said to myself, Florida A&M was just a fantastic marching band. And I said, I think I want to go to Florida A&M to get in the band. But I said, I don't think I'm ready for it. So I took it on my own accordance to say, well, I'm not going to Florida A&M after graduation. I'm going to wait 1 year and then take some courses or take some English courses or something. And then I'm going to go to Florida A&M and see, could I make the band? I would practice every day the scales and arpeggios to make sure that I was ready to get in that band, because Florida A&M had the best musicians during that time. They only had 132 members in the band, and that was a big band. And in order for me to get in that band, I had to be ready. All music majors, and I was probably one of the few people that made that band and a non-music major. And that's what when I got in that band, my youngest brother said, Biggie, I knew you would make it.
Well, was college something that you were thinking about coming through school, or is that happened?
That was really something. I never thought about college. I thought about being a coach. I always wanted to be a coach. And we could take a step back. My best friend, Tracy Whitehead, in high school, and I was in 10th grade, and we walked over to the gym, and he said, Cyrus, I'm going to tell the coach you can play baseball. And I said, don't tell him that. So we walked over to the gym, and he said, Coach, you should get him on the baseball team. He's good. I wasn't that good, and the coach said, okay, you come out. I made the team, and I was a star on Matthew Gilbert's baseball team. So it was a good thing. And from there, I said, well, I can play baseball and the trombone. Maybe I'll try to go to college. And I was never educationally real sound. That wasn't me. And we can go back, Billy. My mother and my father, they didn't make us study, because my father made $29 a week, and my mother worked in the cafeteria. Wow. So I didn't study, but my sister, I used to see her studying all the time. I said, wow, why am I studying? But again, college was not a big spot in my eyes, not at all. Wow. So, but once I decided that I wanted to go to college, Florida A&M, and I made the band, my next step was, hey, I'm going to try out for the baseball team.
This is at Florida A&M?
At Florida A&M. And I made the baseball team. Oh. So you can see. So it has always been a part of me in sports for some reason.
So how was it being a Rattler? What are some things that you learned being at Florida A&M, FAMU?
Yes, I learned just togetherness.
Okay.
Dr. William Foster was the director of bands, and it was so disciplined. Mm-hmm. We had to be at practice on time, 2:00 in the morning, practicing. So it was just something that I thought that it certainly inspired me. Mm-hmm. It certainly inspired me because, Dave, if we just go back and talk about you and how practice and the things that we did in practice, I was in the service. I went to the service, Vietnam, and I don't walk away from my bed in the morning without making my bed up. I can't take 2 steps. I have to make that bed up. And that's the discipline we're talking about. And that's the discipline that you showed and Wallpaper and the other track people on my team. Well, somebody said, are you a good coach? I said, no, I don't think so. I'm just a disciplinarian.
No, you're beyond a good coach. You are transcendent. So how did you end up in the military?
Oh, boy. All through college, they gave us a 2S.
This is your classification, right?
Yeah, 2S.
Sure.
That's a student classification that we didn't have to go into service.
Okay.
So, Bill, when I graduated from Florida A&M, 3 months after I graduated, I had that 2S was taken from me.
And so you were eligible?
I was eligible to go into the service. And what was going on during that time? The Vietnam War.
What year is this around? Late 60s, early 70s?
1968.
That was a very interesting year for a country.
Yes. A lot of deaths during that time.
Yeah.
Murders, yes.
Wow. So you graduated undergrad in 68.
Yeah, I graduated from FAMU in 68, yes.
So you had LBJ saying, I'm not going to run for president.
Yes.
You had Medgar Evers. You had MLK, RFK, and then you go to Vietnam.
Yes. And when Martin Luther King was killed, I was in the service. And I saw all the buildings on fire. And I said, what is going on? People were rioting. And I was in the service. And I couldn't do anything about it because 2 months after that, I was shipped away to Vietnam after just maybe 2.5 months of training, learning how to shoot, learning how to fight, learning how to be frightened over what was going on. And
how was it over there?
It wasn't a good sight. And coming back, it was so, you never know. I don't ever remember telling you or anybody that I was in the service because the PTSD was just upon me.
Wow. What you saw?
What I saw. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't, loud sounds. It was just, I just had to make sure that I can control myself in the front of you and other teammates. Wow. Because I would get up and lock my door, check the door 3 or 4 times to see if they were locked. So it was a rough time over in Vietnam, and coming back from Vietnam was just not nice. People didn't like me because they said we were over there doing something illegal, killing babies and doing things. So I never told anyone that I was in the Vietnam War until recently.
So how did you end up at Lincoln? You come back?
Another good story. Yes. While I was in Vietnam, I came back. A year I stayed in Vietnam, and they shipped me back to Fort Monmouth, New Jersey.
Okay.
And one night I was lying in bed, and I heard announcement saying blacks could get an early out, soldiers, to come to Indiana University, Bloomington, Indiana. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I sat up in that bed. I said, whoa, I can get out of service? Yes. And that's what I did. I went to my commanding officer, and he fixed all the paperwork and sent everything to Indiana University. I don't know how they got my transcript. Don't ask me. I don't know anything. But I was able to get my duffel bag within a month during August, and I caught the bus to Indiana, Bloomington, Indiana.
So you went to Indiana University?
Grad school.
Wow.
Bobby Knight and
yes.
Mark Spitz.
Yes.
I was there with them. Wow. Yes. And cousins, all those people. And it was it was just a sight for me to see. It was completely dominated with the other people.
Yes.
And I said to myself, why am I here? But we made it. I made it through within a year, maybe almost 2 years.
So you finished Indiana, how Lincoln?
Okay. Then, when I got my degree, my buddies and we all said, we're not going to march. No, we're not going to let them send our diploma. So I left Indiana, and I said, I'm going to see my sister in Ohio because she taught her and her husband was at Oberlin College.
Oh, yeah.
So I went by to see them. On a Saturday, I got there, and she said to me, Biggie, you ought to go into Elyria and see, could you get a job? I think they're hiring in Elyria. I said, I'm going to Florida, Jacksonville. She said, you just go down there and see, could you get a job? I went down to the courthouse, Judge Weber, and went in that courthouse and asked, was it in an opening? So they hired me the first day. You know, I was the only black probation officer there.
Wow.
Right in Elyria, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
So there now, I stayed there, and I was running behind everybody. I had the big clog shoes on, big old afro, and I was going into the schools looking for kids, making sure that they go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And again, one of the kids that I was taking care of, he was in jail, and they said that they were going to put him in Mansfield. So the judge said, you take to see if you can keep him out and make sure he does well, you know, we won't send him. So I took that kid in, and he became a warden. Do you believe?
Wow.
Yes, he did. And to this day, he called me and asked to say, thank you, coach, all the time in praise. But after that now, I stayed there for 2 years. And I decided that I was going to go. My buddy who I was in the service with, he went to over there to Pennsylvania, and he worked in York, Pennsylvania. And he wrote me a letter. He called me and said, Cyrus, there are 2 jobs opening up in Pennsylvania at York College and Lincoln University. I sent 2 letters. And Manny Rivero,
Manny Rivero,
yeah. He told me to come for an interview. And I went up there for an interview, and I said to myself, I'm not staying here. It smells too bad here. Petty smell. So I went up there for the baseball job.
Wow.
And he said to me, the baseball job has been taken by Doug Randolph.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, wow. He said, could you coach track? Oh, my goodness, I prevaricated so big time. I said, yes, I can coach track. Billy, I was so frightened until Thomas Smith.
Uh-huh.
Yes, he was my friend. So he decided that he was going to help me out when I told him I was going to become a track coach. And he showed me how to set the blocks up, how to get runners out of the blocks. And that's what I did. And he was a good friend, so I had to write him a letter one time after I got to Lincoln. He's trying to get another job. And I wrote him a recommendation. But again, I'm telling you, I went to Lincoln to coach baseball. And from that time, I always went to see Jumbo Elliott at Villanova. I went to all of the coaches, and they didn't know me. I was just standing on the side listening and trying to figure out how to coach track. I didn't even know how to coach. I didn't know how to score cross country. But again, it's good.
Yeah.
And he made me, he fixed me. He made me so disciplined every day, until they thought I had a heart attack. I was in that gym so much. But come to find out, they said, no, he's just exhausted. A doctor had to come in from Philly to test me to see if I had a heart attack.
So you're at Lincoln, you're the track coach.
Yes.
Did you think about what you were going to create or what this was going to become, or you're just there? So your earliest one that I remember on the wall was Barry
Ferron.
Yes. Was that one of the very first ones where?
He was, no. Billy, the fella that became the first All-American is 69 years old now. And he just left my house this week. He flew up from Florida. He said, Coach, I haven't seen you in 47 years. May I come to see you? And he came up, and he was the first quarter miler to become that ran a 48 back in the 70s.
Wow.
And he became an All-American. So I just didn't. Barry Ferron, they opened the door. But Ferron and others, and Greg Fluker, those people, they became, and Nip Randolph, Michael Randolph, and you probably don't know all those fellas, but again, they became so attached to what we had to do. We woke up in the morning at 5 o'clock to run. We practiced when a basketball game was going on they would all come in their gear and sit in the stands. And at halftime, they would go outside to run. So, and as I said to you, I don't know, I never had that much knowledge of track and field. I had no knowledge, but I was a self-taught. I taught myself. And no one ever knew that I didn't know track. Not a lick of track.
You know, Coach, it's amazing looking back. You know, Lincoln is such a humble place at that time. Is that, you know, you had the wall, all the All-Americans in the case. And it was, even without you speaking it, it was just like what you created and you passed down over and over, even just unconsciously, like what people came into. There was a culture. I was telling one of my colleagues is that I was like, my coach could teach a master class on creating culture in an organization that it's, even after after your retirement, it's just there. It's you know, people are hearing you now say like belly, and we were talking about this at lunch. Is that we don't even refer to each other by our first names. It's our track name. Like that. Right. It's replaced our first name. So when did you start thinking that you had created something special? Around what year did you like, wow, this is bigger than I thought? And
perhaps you were there then. We used to drive everywhere we went.
The vans.
Drive in the van.
The vans.
And the ripping van back there and all of that stuff. So, Billy, I always drove the first van.
Mm-hmm.
And we were leaving campus and maybe turning a corner on 896. And I looked back and I said to myself, wow, what do we have? All those kids in the back going to a track meet, and going to a track meet not just to run, but they were going to win. And that's what they would always think about wallpaper. They knew that they would get ready to do some damage to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And it hit me quickly that time.
I remember, you know, you're famous for taking, you know, these young men and women who are reclamation projects that people had given up. I can't even recall whether it was Clive or Fluff. Wallpaper. It could have been. You got Ed. You got so many people, runners who were world class or high school all-staters and stuff like that. Like, how did you get them to come to Lake? Like, how did that happen? Like, there was so many.
Wow. Well, you know, we didn't have women the first few years.
Yes.
But what we had to do, before I get to that point, is that I went into the student body and I asked for track people. And at one time, we had almost 60 women, and we just had space for nobody else, but they would just come out to practice, and they were coming out for cosmetic reasons.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to look good,
and
that's the reason they were coming out. But after that, I'm just saying to myself, how did we manage to get them to become so involved in track and field?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking that I would say to them, Bella, I would tell some of those runners, if you come to Lincoln, you will graduate. I'll see that you graduate. And that was the number one drawing. Even Thomas Thompson, he came in from Ohio State.
Yep, Ohio State.
Yes. And we had Nip.
Mm-hmm.
Not Nip, but we had, I can't think of his name now, but he came from Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden,
you had Redman from Dane, from Delaware,
yes. And they would come in and I would say to them, and you know, we had to, hey, you have to be on time. And if you're on time, you're late. If you're on time, you're late. So the thing is that I just said to myself that Cyrus Jones, how did you make this happen? How did you get 17 national championships and 350 All-Americas, you know? And you were probably one of the best, if not the best, cross-country man that I had after Henry Austin, because Henry Austin is 68.
Yep.
He's 68 years old now. But you just had a knack of running and just being up there with that cross-country team like y'all loved it to death. You just want to just keep running and not stop. And it all came from us doing what? Being disciplined. And that's what it was all about all the time.
You know, what I remember, Coach, you know, I tell this story is that you have people who give and then you have people who sacrifice. So coming on campus in 96 after incarceration, I was in London. And you drove every Wednesday morning, 7:30 in the morning, take me to Delaware for my probation officer, and all the different mess ups I had. And like you know, I think we wait too late to give people their just due, their flowers, their acknowledgments, the recognition. Right. You have saved lives. You have saved hundreds of thousands of lives, whether they ran for you for one practice or whether they were multi-time All-Americans. You know, there's a tapestry that you've woven of people who, like we have said this on calls and that you haven't been a part of. Like we could talk about who we would give our life for, and you are one of those people that always come up. It's like people can do anything to anybody, they can't do it to Coach. And but you have established beyond a legacy, beyond the colors of Lincoln, beyond you know the physical campus, is that what you have done is no short of a miracle. And we love you so much. I mean, we talk about you know me, your one-liners. We talk about your sayings. Whether we're training by ourselves now and we sing your songs still to this day. Like you are an amazing, beautiful human being.
Well, Billy, I can remember very clearly the day you asked me in my office that the problem that you had and what you needed. Mm-hmm. And when you asked me to take you into Wilmington, I was so jubilant. I felt special for you to ask me to do something like that. And it was just so mind-boggling to me that I was so happy to do that for you. And well, yeah, I wasn't trying to impress you. Mm-hmm. I wasn't trying to impress anybody. I just wanted to do it because you were a part of me then, a part of my team. And that's what it's all about. And that's why when those kids call me every time, they say, Coach, I'll see you, love you. Yeah. And it's just something at this stage of the game. How could I continue? And what else could happen in my lifetime to make me so happy to what's happening and what you have done for me and what the school is getting ready to do.
To speak on that and to on that, Coach. So everything in due time, but the university has decided to name the track after you. Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I feel a little embarrassed. And why? I don't know. Did I accomplish anything? Did I coerce someone to name the track after me? And I ask myself all the time, being up to the school all the time, that am I begging for that? But it's not something that I'm really jubilant about it, you know, and I just think about it. And as you said earlier, when Mr. Rivero died, they named the building after him. Mm-hmm. And I certainly hope and pray to God that I'm able to stay around and to see all those kids come back, to see that track name.
Coach, I want to thank you. I want to applaud you. I want to praise you for your humility, for your sacrifice, for you just being unconditional. That whether, someone just crossed your path, whether someone had the opportunity to learn from you and be loved by you. Thank you for believing. Thank you for never giving up. You're incredibly special, and I love you.
And I love you even more, what you've done. I tell you.
Thank you for the life you have given to so many. Well,
thank
you. Love you, Coach.
Even more. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for another episode of One Door at a Time. Thank you for joining us. As always, you can catch us at concentric.world for all of our content. I want to give a special thanks again to Coach Cyrus D. Jones. If you don't know, you don't know. There's no words that can articulate what he has done for thousands of people. We'll catch you next time. Until then, see you. Coach, I love you.
Oh, boy. Let's go back to it. Oh, man.